Lo-fi hip-hop is both a product of and an escape from socio-economic pressures. Its meaning is derived from both fantasy and reality, engaged in with equal sincerity. It is experienced alone, but used as a means of interpersonal care and connection. It both acknowledges the loss of a past never experienced or known, and immerses itself comfortably in that past and its loss, repurposing it within the present, rather than using it to self-consciously critique that present.
Wow, that really sums up what lo-fi is in a nutshell, eh?
Yeah, I guess we can just wrap up the episode right there.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for listening. Who's that quote from? Or what's that quote from?
It's a study called Beats to Relax / Study to, Contradiction and Paradox in Lo-Fi Hip-Hop, which is just one of the best academic article names I've ever heard, by Emma Winston and Lawrence Saywood. And it's a really great paper, and it helped me a lot to prepare for this episode, and also even just to kind of affirm and prove things which I had already suspected about lo-fi, which, for those of you who don't know, is the topic of today's episode. And I'm guessing everyone under the age of 25 and in school and has spent some time on the internet knows what lo-fi music is. But if you don't, lo-fi or low fidelity music can be described as a genre, style, or production quality in which elements usually regarded as imperfections of a recording or performance are audible, highlighted, or exaggerated, usually as a deliberate aesthetic choice.
Yeah, and lo-fi's been around for a little bit, probably since the early 90s, not in the mainstream until YouTube came about. But throughout the 90s, a producer named Jay Dilla, did you look into him at all?
No.
So he was a hip-hop producer who produced for people like The Roots or Busta Rhymes. And his style was basically, instead of using the machine that a lot of hip-hop artists at the time used to sync up the bass and the drums, he wouldn't use that, and he would let the bass and the drums be slightly out of sync. And he would also, when he would use vinyl samples, he wouldn't clean them up. Like Kanye West uses a lot of vinyl samples. Like, I mean, in the 90s, that was kind of all they had. They didn't have like electronic ones like we do.
Okay.
But he would always like clean them up and make them sound really crisp and modern, and like you can't even tell it's a sample sometimes. But Jay Dilla really like leaned into it and let the dusty vinyl sounds kind of come through.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It references vinyl crackles as well as old radio / TV / movie audio. So like Alicia was saying, just kind of that old quality of sound is preserved or mimicked, really, because most lo-fi produced now, or 99% of it, is done digitally anyway.
Yeah, not actually taking samples.
And a lot of samples are also from old radio or TV or movie lines, or just the soundtrack. Most lo-fi will be instrumental, and the few words quite often are just, what would you say, like these old...
Just a snippet from a cartoon or an anime, just like a one-line, obscure, not like a catchphrase, like, it's not like it's SpongeBob's catchphrase being thrown in there. It's just like a random line from a random episode. Yeah,
so I wanted to start with that kind of digital imitating the analog is a really interesting thing to be present through this music and kind of characterizing it. What do you think to that?
I think it's a very interesting modern, like it's something that wouldn't happen throughout history. Like if there's something you could do by hand, you wouldn't try and mimic it. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It just seems like it's super new and modern. And in a lot of lo-fi music, there's often rain noises or wind noises, rustling. So they're also using
natural sounds,
but they're doing it all digitally.
Well, it reminds me of filters which make things look like Polaroids.
Yeah.
Artificially add in film grain to digital photos. I'm not sure what exactly this means, other than maybe people just think it's a legitimately interesting visual or audio style, which it is. But I think there's probably something deeper to it than that. Some kind of nostalgia in it.
Yeah, for sure. Lo-fi is the most nostalgic thing on the internet, it seems. Because it's like calling back to the past, to cartoons and everything, yeah.
What's your experience with lo-fi music, Alicia? Do you like it? When did you first stumble upon it? Is it something that you listen to? Are there various subgenres or songs or artists that you like?
So I stumbled across some lo-fi music while probably in grade 10 or 11, going to write a paper, and I just typed into YouTube study music, and this was the first thing that came up. And at first I was just really confused because I was like, what are these little like do like, and the little like scratchy noises? And then I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just listen to it in the background anyway. And it's the perfect study music. The thing about lo-fi is that I couldn't name a single artist. Could barely name a single curator even on YouTube.
Right. So let's just break that down again for people who aren't familiar. It might sound boring to people who like spend time on YouTube, but people who don't, it's probably pretty alien.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the songs are just made by random people who don't go by their main name. They pick a pseudonym.
Yeah.
So mine would be like Red Microphone.
Yeah.
Or like, no, it would be like Boy with the Red Microphone.
Yeah.
Sad Boy with the Red Microphone. So that's my pseudonym.
Yes.
And then I put these songs out there, usually on SoundCloud. And usually they're 2 to 4 minutes, just kind of, as we describe, these kind of glitchy beats, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I guess they're called curators. Mm-hmm. A bigger YouTube channel who makes these mixes, which are kind of like mixtapes or playlists, will find a bunch of songs they like, put them together under a title, under a similar theme. So the theme could be Summer Nights Lo-Fi.
Yeah.
If I have a song that's especially like that, they take it and put it in the mix on YouTube with some visuals on loop, usually from a cartoon, maybe just a still image sometimes, and credit me in the description of the video. Yeah. And that's kind of, and then that's what people listen to, which is why most people don't know the names of the artists, the names of the songs, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like people have like a favorite lo-fi song. People have a favorite lo-fi mix or a favorite genre of lo-fi.
Do you have a favorite lo-fi mix? Can you name any?
I know I liked like 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
like coffee or something.
Yeah.
It's from the most popular one. It's called like, I think it's Chill Hop or something.
Oh, Chilled Cow?
No, I know there's Chilled Cow, but there's also Chill Hop.
Okay.
I like the Chill Hop playlists because they're always for like a season, a time of day, and a vibe. Like it's a trio, and you can pick one to fit whatever you're in.
It's kind of like a mix and match.
Yeah.
We were talking a few weeks ago that we like the channel 130 Mood.
Yes.
Even though a lot of her videos got taken down because, another thing about lo-fi is that it's kind of rife with copyright issues. We'll get into that later a little bit.
Yeah.
She had cool visuals. It was just like footage of her doing things. It wasn't cartoon.
Yeah, and it was always like golden hour or something, but it was just her like putting away.
So they're kind of idyllic. The visuals don't really matter because the lo-fi experience typically is you open it in one tab and then you open some other tabs and just let the music play while you go about your work or whatever you're doing online. So that's kind of interesting, and that's something they mentioned in this study, which was about the way we listen to things now is almost always multitasking, and lo-fi is perfectly suited to that.
Yeah.
So for instance, I remember one time I was trying to explain it to my parents, and my mom was like, okay, put on a song. And I did, and she was like, this is elevator music. And I was like, well, yeah, no one's really listening to it, just listening to it.
Yeah.
It's to put yourself into a trance, or as people would say, put yourself into like a flow state is usually why you do it. You don't do it to focus on the sound so much. That's why it's kind of repetitive beats. Yeah. Because it's just to get you into a rhythm, I guess.
Yeah, it's a super useful tool for studying. That's why I think it's caught on so much, is because people will recommend it, you listen to it, and the way that the beats are laid out is that there's a lot of like space is the best way I can put it. It's like study music as a genre or as a type of music. You could do classical or you could do like lo-fi are probably the two most common study tunes. And what makes them so good for focusing is because they're interesting enough to like keep your attention while you're studying or trying to focus on something, but they're paced enough that they don't like distract you. Like it's really detrimental to listen to songs with lyrics while you're studying because they get into your head, and that's like not good. You don't want other information going in. But yeah, it's just really well suited to studying.
I agree with that. The study that I was reading mentioned one thing that they found interesting, which is that the most famous lo-fi video, which is almost a meme at this point because it's so ubiquitous in YouTube recommendations, is the one by Chilled Cow, and it has an anime girl sitting at a desk studying. And now I think it's not even a video, but it's a 24/7 live radio station, and it's called Lo-Fi Hip-Hop Beats to Study/Relax to. Yep. Something along those lines. And the article I was reading mentioned how interesting it was that these were beats to both study and relax to, seemingly two opposites.
True.
What would that mean?
I guess it's kind of like allowing you to escape from, like, that's kind of what you do when you relax. You're trying to escape from the day. But when you're studying, you're trying to also escape from the day, I guess, in a way to try and zone in.
Yeah. It's also something about the headphones.
Yeah.
It's about escapism.
Yeah.
I was reading another article which was about, I guess it would be called digital nomadism, or rather contemporary immigration. And it was explaining like the formation of America and how when people came to it, it was a new world. Mm-hmm. And how now there is no new world. So people's immigration is into digital spaces.
Okay, that's an interesting claim.
So I think headphones are kind of like your passport into those digital spaces sometimes, to fully immerse yourself into
the online experience.
Yeah. Going back to like the anonymity of the channel names and the musician names and the song names, because I genuinely couldn't name a lo-fi song despite having listened to tens of hours of it easily.
Yeah.
I just think that's such a unique phenomenon and a feeling, because no other genre is like that. You know, if I named pretty much every other genre, you'd be able to name at least one artist, even if it's something you don't really listen to.
Yeah, of course.
This is so divorced from traditional media and music sharing, or even art, I will say, because most art, you see the piece and you either are told or you want to ask, wow, who did this?
Yeah.
But with lo-fi, it's not that. It's so communal, and it really feels like you're just plugging into a like internet endless depository of the same kind of music. It's very interesting.
I feel that's probably why all of the different like genres of lo-fi, I'm gonna like put them onto their like chill wave and vaporwave and stuff, have the word wave maybe, because it feels like when you plug into like one of those channels, like you're like tuning into a different radio station for your life.
Yeah, that's what it's like, a radio station.
Yeah.
I had some stuff on the different genres.
Okay.
And again, listeners, you'll have to excuse us because neither of us are very musically informed. So I don't know the specifics of what kind of characterizes these genres when it comes to like the technical aspects of the songs. All I can tell is basically what I see on a YouTube page and hear when I listen to it. But I just chose 4 main genres because there are hundreds. So if I were to try and break it down into every separate subgenre and aesthetic, it would be very time consuming. And there's no kind of academic layout, so you kind of have to pave your own path when you're trying to classify things.
Yeah.
And also because most videos don't fit neatly into one. That's kind of the nature of lo-fi, is it's about remixing and synthesis. But there's the main one, which I am calling lo-fi, which is like those hip-hop beats. Chill hop, I asked what your experience with it was, but mine was when I first started watching Casey Neistat vlogs.
Oh yeah, that probably is where I was introduced to it, wasn't it?
Because he was huge on YouTube, and he was kind of the first to pioneer the modern vlog style, or at least perfect it. And his videos always featured 1 or 2 or 3 chill hop songs. And before I started watching him, I generally never heard anything like that. Yeah. I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then I would kind of usually check the description and go to the video and be like, oh, I like this. And thus it would be filtered into my recommendations. And then I think there were a lot of copycats of him in vlogs, and pretty much that's the music which is synonymous now with those kind of daily vlogs. Yeah,
especially because those artists are so used to kind of like giving their music away for free, I imagine.
Yeah, that happens a lot, that kind of promotional aspect, cross promotion, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's what I started with, which was that chill hop, but that's not what I listen to now because I didn't really like it to listen to that much. When it was a background to basically a TV show, which was what he made.
Yeah.
It was perfect for that, and especially for the mood that he was kind of trying to get across. But when I'm studying or doing work or writing, which is when I'm usually listening to music on YouTube, I don't know, it doesn't really do much for me. It's kind of too upbeat for me.
Yeah.
Because those videos are usually pretty upbeat.
Yeah.
Like they're hip hop beats, so I think they slow them down a little bit, but it's still a high tempo. One thing that I wanted to kind of explore in this episode is how you go from one type of music to other types of music on YouTube.
Interesting, because in real life that just never really would happen, would it?
Well, before the internet age, no way. So let's say you type in study music like you did, and you go to the Chilled Cow video that has like 15 million views, and then you're liking it, and you're scrolling down in the recommendations on the right-hand side of YouTube, And there are some different types. Most of them are very similar, but there's a couple which are a little bit different. So let's say some look sadder, or some look happier, or some look more classical. And then basically whatever direction you go in, the algorithm kind of spirals like that. It's a feedback loop, and you get deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole until you're listening to music which is pretty much unrecognizable from the first song. That's how YouTube works.
Yeah.
So some of the genres, which I find some of the bigger, I'll call them lo-fi genres, are the chill hop beats, and there's also piano remixes of pop culture soundtracks. So the most common ones on YouTube are Studio Ghibli soundtracks. I listen to Zelda soundtracks. I like those. Mixes which are themed after Simpsons and other old glitchy cartoons, which is a very strange, seemingly strange phenomena. And also what I'll call bedroom pop, which is the most traditional of these genres, which is lo-fi in its definition, but doesn't really resemble the other ones. It's basically actual people singing, but in ways which sound old, but which is kind of upbeat and trendy.
Yeah. That's kind of like what Billie Eilish started out with.
Yeah.
For those who just need an example, I guess.
Yeah, so those are the genres which I looked into.
Cool.
A little bit. And for my own preferences, I like the piano remixes, and it basically got me into classical
Debussy
music.
And Impressionism.
Yeah, because there's also, like, lo-fi isn't the only type of music which has these hour-long mixes on YouTube. Pretty much every kind has. So my path went something like lo-fi traditional chill hop beats to piano remixes of soundtracks I knew, to soundtracks I knew, and then to just classical piano music, which is where I'm at now because it's much more peaceful, I find.
Yeah. These ones are always a little bit like, they keep you on your toes if you're listening to lo-fi. Little scratch or a little
I don't like to write to that. Also, I don't like to focus to that.
Yeah, it definitely has a place though, and like everyone can find their niche because of how YouTube works.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I went from just like the basic lo-fi beats to, let's say, a mix of Debussy and Ravel or the Interstellar soundtrack or something like that, just through the algorithm. And it made me, find music which I like more, but it also distanced me from, it puts you into a more and more narrow niche.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of lose autonomy or
What's your
choice.
Niche? What do you listen to?
What do I listen to?
You're opening a tab. What's in the tab?
I usually listen to bands. I like their YouTube channels because they usually have like behind the scenes them like doing little pop-up concerts and stuff. It's like Bon Iver, Tragic Thrills, and Vampire Weekend. All their YouTube channels, they have like really behind the scenes, and they're kind of lo-fi. They're usually like on the streets, and there's like
that's not lo-fi.
A garbage can
that's not
rattling.
Lo-fi.
I don't know. It's not really lo-fi, but I got to it from just from YouTube. I would go on and search up like I wanted to listen to say like Skinny Love by Bon Iver, but then I would like be recommended like a remix or something, and then I discovered their channels, like where they would do their like behind the scenes concerts and stuff.
It's the recommendations, and also I find because I'm usually, or quite often, will be writing or studying for longer than is provided by the length of the one video. Also, the autoplay is a feature.
Yeah.
So, and that's something with lo-fi, you don't notice when it changes the video. You don't notice at all because the next videos usually wind up to be very similar.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have autoplay turned on, it basically means that once the video ends, you don't need to return to the tab to manually select another one. It'll just start another one. Which is, I guess, convenience. When I put it like that, it sounds kind of dangerous. Because you just kind of
you could literally
in.
like listen to a video that you didn't even realize you listened to. It was like in the middle of 3 videos. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Numerous times, probably. But anyway, so for these 3 genres I found, the piano remixes, Simpsons and other old glitchy cartoons, and bedroom pop, I just found a typical video, maybe one that I've listened to of each one, maybe one with a lot of views, and was reading the comments and took some comments. Because lo-fi comments is another thing that I wanted to highlight in this video.
Yeah.
Because these genres are almost always a strange oasis of positivity in the all-consuming toxicity that is YouTube comments.
Yeah. It's so strange when you scroll down on one of these and
you
it's
scroll
like...
down on pretty much every other YouTube video and it's just a mess of politics and controversy in the comments and indecency. And then you scroll down on lo-fi videos and it's like, love you all, and it has like a
Yeah.
15,000 likes.
Or it's like, I'm 12. This is my first poem. I hope you like it. And they write a poem.
Maybe it's because it's a younger audience. I don't know.
I don't think it's always younger, though. I mean, lots of uni kids. I guess that's still young.
That's young.
Yeah. What about the live streams of lo-fi songs and like the live chats?
Yeah, I didn't go on the chats. I never usually like chats.
No.
I don't really like live chats online. YouTube does them now. They were kind of pioneered by Twitch in gaming, and I think that gaming culture, and it provides an even more lack of consequences than does just a traditional comment section.
Yeah.
Traditional comment section, it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter what you type because no one knows you, but at least it's going to be there and everyone's going to see it and we'll have to react to it. In live chats, which is where the chat just keeps scrolling automatically, pretty much no one will see your post, so you're just kind of shouting into the wind, and it leads people to just shout increasingly more kind of extreme things to try and get noticed and to try and get a reaction out of people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pointless, I think.
I think so too. I looked a little bit into why lo-fi goes with cartoons.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the comments I had, sorry, I keep getting away from it. The piano remixes, and these are things like anime soundtracks or video game soundtracks, which they really play on the familiarity the most. This is why I kind of chose these three genres.
No, it's a good idea.
So this is the one that plays on your nostalgia the most, and the comments are typically, so the most common will be a long story about the commenter first either seeing the movie or playing the game as a kid. It'd be like, oh, I used to play this with my brother. I was player 2. We did this. I got it on Christmas Day. Those were simpler times. So it's very nostalgic and ultimately, I will say, positive. You know, they're not usually super sad. Mm-hmm. They're kind of sad, but only in the way
sad in the way that like a Disney
nostalgia
movie
is sad.
Yeah.
Another comment I saw was, hi person reading this, I hope your future will be bright. Your day is awesome. I hope you pass your tests and all that stuff. So it's basically kind of like a old school internet thing.
Yeah.
Where people always put that. And another comment I saw was, perfect to listen to after a day worth of cleaning while drinking an iced tea as the sun goes down. So very referential to the mood that it sets.
Yeah, and it really is a community when you're on there because, you know, the other people listening to it, especially the live streams, it's like everyone here is like, for the most part, doing the exact same thing, but like all over the world, all different times of day. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah. The next mini genre is, I don't know if it has a name, it might be Simpson Wave, but it's when there is a very trippy, so the visuals are really trippy, edited,
like purple
shots.
tones.
Yeah, a lot of purple tone shots or footage of old cartoons, Simpsons or older. Mm-hmm. Often anime inspired.
Yep.
So, did you want to go into the cartoon imagery?
Yeah, sure. So I was looking into just like the history of lo-fi, and obviously one of the most prevalent questions when people are like looking on the internet about what lo-fi is like, why is this hip-hop connected to anime? And the answer is, in like the 90s when Jay Dilla was like doing his thing and like starting to make this type of beat popular, his music was used on what's called bumpers in between cartoons on a channel, well, you know, Cartoon Network. Between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. it turns into the Adult Swim.
Yep.
And that is like super stylized, the way that all of the titles are, like their logo is stylized with like brackets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But on these like bumpers, it was like the lo-fi, the voiceover like speaking through a megaphone over his beats. And so when that was like a whole generation of kids associated that music and that like kind of crackly voiceover with these anime cartoons that this channel started getting.
That's really interesting.
In the early like 2000 to 2005. So like that generation, I guess like our generation who's now like producers, associated those things. So when they were producing their music, they would be like, oh, I made this song which could be a bumper. I should put a anime or a cartoon over it. And that's why it's usually like more of an adult-y cartoon like Simpsons or... Yeah, so it's
the
crossover
cool. Between animation and hip-hop is very storied as well. And that was a cool story you just mentioned. Especially because, okay, this episode is recorded about 3 weeks in advance. Mm-hmm. But Kanye and Kid Cudi just announced and showed a trailer for their Kids See Ghosts anime.
Yeah.
There's a definite kind of link here, and also he was kind of mentored by Jay Dilla a little bit. Mm-hmm. That could probably be its own episode.
Yeah, probably.
But going back to The Simpsons, some of the comments in these ones differ a little bit from the piano ones. So some I saw were, I love how everybody in the comment section is either high or just really needs to vent how they feel. I wanted to pluck that one out. It was one of the top comments because these videos are also way more druggy usually than the rest of lo-fi.
Yeah.
That's why I don't really listen to them.
Yeah.
There's kind of it'll be like Bart Simpson looking high or like Homer drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like this. So that really plays on that aspect of escapism, and it does it in kind of a more negative way than I find the rest of lo-fi does. So I don't really like that. Another one, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've left them. There's a lot of this kind of teenage angst present all through the lo-fi community. You just kind of got to roll with it because that's the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like there will be songs titled something like that. It'll be like, I loved you, but you never knew. Like that's a lo-fi name.
Yeah.
Or like, we met in a coffee shop, it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
It's always stuff like that. It's very strange.
But they're just like really specific vibes.
I know.
Is the thing, and I love it because it's just like, where else can you get not just a song? Like you could find a song called I Miss You or something. But you get this hour of just like
It's not even I miss you, it's a paragraph.
No, I know.
You're
The
like,
titles
I
are
miss
very
you,
long.
but we something.
But you moved away and now I go to school alone.
Yeah.
How the
like,
soccer team sucks because you
I
got
stepped in a
gone.
puddle on the way to school. Now my foot is wet.
We should probably become lo-fi producers.
Another comment on the Simpsons one. It's sad when the person you had best memories with becomes a memory. And you can't
It's
hold
so
the
funny.
But it's because I think we've laughed at them before. I think we've
No, I
spent
know.
time before just scrolling through a video kind of laughing at the comments. Because it is, but it's really sad.
I know.
And the reason we're kind of doing an episode on it is not to laugh at it at all. It's because we think this is a super valid means of understanding the culture, and especially the culture of the youth. This is
100%.
where the youth are. Sometimes when it's a pick-me-up for me if I'm like, I need some affirmation of life and humanity. I go to one of the positive lo-fi videos and read a story about some guy who I went to ask out his crush, but then she said this, and then he did. Like, people post pretty much journal entries in the comments, possibly false, but, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, it's just like a nice place.
It's true.
Maybe it's an example of how the internet is good, or like how it at least...
Well, people use it as therapy, no doubt.
Yeah. But it's just interesting because regular music like is on billboards and celebrated and everything. And it's like really about celebrity, but this is just so anonymous.
It's the opposite.
It's just like, this is where we can go to understand
That's really interesting.
what people are feeling.
Because when you listen to the radio, there's no chance that you won't know the name of the artist.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it feels like radio, MTV, VMAs are way more into the celebrity worship aspect of it than the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
And lo-fi
or like the cultural significance of it even.
Yeah, lo-fi is the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know the names. It's very humble like that.
Mm-hmm.
And lo-fi musicians know that going into it.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to know my name as Sad Boy with a red microphone.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to some interviews on my way here, and it was just lo-fi artists, and they were talking about it. They were like, yeah, if I get like 500,000 streams on Spotify, I'll get a check for like $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like they were like angry at Spotify or angry at the curators. They just were saying, I'm making it to add to this community.
I like that you mentioned it in relation to, or in contrast to pop music as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is so internet born and it's so kind of non-traditional in its circulation and its production and the sound of it, I will say, that it really feels to me like a pushback against that kind of pop music. Against like the Beyonce worship or the Taylor Swift worship or the Kanye worship or whoever it may be. And that's in the sound. I think that's why it's lo-fi. It's because it doesn't sound like that stuff you hear on the radio.
It doesn't sound perfect and...
Yeah. It makes it seem more authentic. And also, since it sounds kind of quote-unquote bad, it makes it seem like anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes along with that idea of the internet and YouTube democratizing content creation and production.
Very cool. Do you have any more thoughts?
Oh yeah, on the bedroom pop genre.
Oh yeah.
So I'll explain that a little bit. That's people like Billie Eilish before she went big, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Clairo, Joji, they all kind of have silly names. That's another thing, you just got to go with it. And it's called bedroom pop because it started just with people singing in their bedroom on like a bad microphone.
Yeah, with the window open or like the fan blowing or something.
And they're kind of singing in a way which is, I guess the typical voice will be like understated. So not exactly singing ballads really powerfully. Just kind of singing about small things.
Yeah.
Some of the comments I saw in this one makes me nostalgic for something I've never experienced. This makes me contently depressed.
Okay.
So it's this kind of sadness, but in a way which makes you want to dance to it a little bit, I guess. I don't know. Bedroom pop, I suppose, of the ones I'm mentioning right now, is the one I actually listen to because I like Clairo, and she's kind of like the figurehead for it, I guess.
I feel like bedroom pop artists make albums, but then lo-fi artists don't do albums, kind of, is like a big difference.
That's why I said it's most traditional. There's a chance for bedroom pop artists to graduate, quote unquote, from YouTube to
radio or
to releasing records. Whereas the other genres don't really have that.
Yeah, once in a while. I feel like JP Sachs went from like lo-fi to...
Who's that?
He's the guy who sings all those songs we really don't like.
Yeah, but was he lo-fi?
I don't know what he was, but I feel like he was bedroom pop. Because he'd always come up in those mixes.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that the same JP?
JP who sounds like an infant. Anyway, sorry JP. Come on the show.
Yeah, it makes me nostalgic for something I've never experienced. That's all through lo-fi, and it was very well explored in this essay I was reading about it. I think it could just be as simple as these are really young people feeling angst and also being plugged into a machine which can perfectly recreate the sounds and images of decades before they were born, which was never possible before. So it's something about the internet being a perfect archive of media and society, which was just never the case. Like I was saying the other day, people growing up before could never see photos of their grandparents. You know, that's like a last 100 years thing. Until that, of their grandparents young, that is. Yeah,
you just have to hear stories.
Now we just have all that stuff. It's just always there and it never goes away. And lo-fi is a reaction to that, I suppose. It's all that stuff mixed together. Yeah.
And music has always been influential on teens. That's how revolutions are like spearheaded. I don't know if lo-fi is like a revolution, but it's just interesting. When you're mentioning being able to like plug into decades before, to me that sounds like a little bit dangerous. To be able to escape so far away from like reality, and because it's not just music, it's a whole aesthetic that you kind of translate into real life, and you might just be like running those lines in your head like...
Well, I mean, this Clairo video that I went on, so the other genres are just cartoons, pretty much, or footage from the daily life. This Clairo video it was really grainy. It was her and her friends spending a day out on this mountain, and they were dancing and walking around and, you know, being cool and being, as one comment said, aesthetic. Just that one word with a little space between each letter. So it's kind of selling you this vision. It's like your life could be this. It could be low fidelity.
But that's like attainable, which I like.
Yeah,
for the most part. Of course, there's some elements of it which are unattainable, but
I'm not saying it's out of reach. I'm just saying that it definitely perpetuates this idea that you can look at every single aesthetic and culture which has ever been, or at least for the last 100 years, just pick and choose what parts of it you like and design yourself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's what I think the increased personalization of music does. It means that if you're trying to speak of like a whole culture or a whole culture of the youth, there isn't one anymore. Everyone has their own.
Yeah.
Because that's what the internet does. We don't really move together as a society so much through different waves or different periods anymore. You can always just do it by yourself, and that's what people do now, I think, with headphones on.
Oh, it's very well put, Aaron.
Yeah, I think a simpler way of saying that is that in the past, let's say in the 80s, people who were teenagers in the 80s, now when a song comes on which is like, girls just want to have fun, like, oh, I remember this, I love it. But like when we're older and a retro song comes on, like a lot of people won't have heard it because they were listening to other stuff.
Yeah, they were listening to the Beatles, or they were listening to Clairo, or they were listening to Kanye,
or they were listening to like Baroque guitar mixes on YouTube.
That's an option, yeah.
I do that sometimes.
I know. Do you know something weird? This is off topic, but I want to mention it quickly. Okay. Sometimes on my recommended YouTube videos, it's videos that I know you've watched, but I know you haven't, like we haven't seen each other in a month.
What do you mean?
Like, you recommended for me to watch that video on world building.
Yes.
Then it shows up in my YouTube recommended.
Really?
On my laptop, and you texted me about it on my phone. We haven't been around. I haven't said it out loud. But it's just like, I feel your computers might be connected.
Well, I think I've sent you before my playlist of liked videos. And you've opened that before on your YouTube account.
Oh, yes.
You've browsed that before. So
That's
it probably
true.
knows that you know me, the user. And
It's just so weird, though.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that was
Very
off
worrying.
topic, just saying.
No, it's not off topic
careful.
at all. It's very on topic. Okay, so we've mentioned pretty well the different genres and also the escapism aspect of it. One question I had was, how has or how will lo-fi music influence mainstream music? Because sometimes I hear songs now and I'm like, wow, that's from lo-fi.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago that would only happen in lo-fi music, which is like a quote from an old movie. And mainstream artists do this now. I'm blanking. Drake did it. Drake does it a lot. Bastille do it. I see the record cover behind you.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, they always have like little like radio snippets and stuff, which
Yeah.
is cool. But yeah, I think it's definitely influencing, and I could see it having like kind of mellowing out radio music, maybe not party music. Like I think that was like, I had one question prepared for this episode to ask you, and the question was, is music made to be ignored worth listening to? And I think the answer is yes, because every music has a different purpose, but I feel like radio music could be a mix between the super hype party pop and lo-fi, because right now sometimes a song comes on and it's like about like partying, and it's like, I'm driving to work, it's 7 a.m.
Well,
like,
you can change. There are different radio stations.
I don't know any radio stations except for the one that our car is tuned
That's
into.
on you though. I'm sure there are more mellow radio stations. I told you I've been
probably.
listening to that French one.
Yeah, I probably should. I mean, I usually just listen to my own music. It was just an example, but yeah. Anyway, what do you think about that question?
I think it will happen, but only on possibly only on a superficial level. It will, mainstream music will only, it kind of wears different hats, as
True.
like sometimes it's really country inspired. Like I think
Yeah.
country inspired hip hop and pop is on the rise.
Yeah.
And I think lo-fi could be that. It would just be like a lo-fi inspired, which is kind of a roundabout way of getting, because considering its roots were in hip hop beats, but now it's kind of, hip hop is taking the inspiration from lo-fi a lot. I think the Weeknd's album that came out this year had elements of that as well. But it's only kind of the superficial elements, the deeper elements, which are about community and more of a focus on the music rather than the celebrity. Those won't be adopted.
True.
Those will kind of fall by the wayside as it gets made more mainstream.
Yeah, makes sense. I know a lot of the curators are now like moving to being like studios kind of, and they
Yeah,
like
I mean,
sign
they're all selling
the
merch
artists.
now.
Yeah.
There you go. So the biggest YouTube curators, Chilled Cow, what's that one? It's like something boy.
I don't know.
Starts with a B. So maybe like Benny Boy or something.
I don't know.
They sell merch. So that's kind of a departure.
It is an example of how it's like, yeah, getting away from the community and anonymity aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's just, I like talking and thinking about lo-fi as representative of this larger phenomenon of kind of a fragmentation of culture, which is what I mentioned earlier, which is everyone has their own personalized algorithm, which leads to their own choices in music, clothes, film, whatever it is, which is
Even like theory on YouTube.
theory.
Yeah, like you'll be recommended
Ideology.
like theories or ideologies.
Yeah,
like,
of course, and your own politics.
Yeah.
Which is kind of objectively good, I would say, for the individual. It means, hey, like, I can't imagine living in the 70s when the only music I could listen to was what was on the radio, so it was all chosen for me, because there was so much less freedom. And now it's like, I can find what I really like, and I can get it closer and closer to like a perfect niche for myself. But from a social aspect, that's awful, because it is so personalized.
There's not many shared experiences anymore,
Yeah.
which is tough.
So people might be listening to this and saying, but what about pop music? That's still huge. And that kind of confuses me. What about pop music? Who's listening to that? I think it's mostly children.
Yeah.
I guess we can have a little discussion on pop music.
I feel like I'm very distant from like the average music listener throughout my life.
Okay.
I never really had a pop phase. There was probably like 2 years when I was like in the later years of high school when I like discovered pop music, but I was listening to like old stuff.
My point is kind of that no one our age listens to pop. But I think historically 21-year-olds do.
Seems
because
right.
pop music used to be what was good.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, it's not good. I think it's...
Yeah, I don't really want the Jonas Brothers. It's like the biggest pop stars even today are like the Jonas Brothers, probably Taylor Swift. Yeah. I don't know who else, Billie Eilish, who I just can't get behind too much.
I think it's mostly young audiences.
Yeah, that seems right. Like your sisters are pretty young and they talk with Shawn Mendes and stuff.
Something else I wanted to mention. Okay, so there are some other genres which we didn't mention. Vaporwave, synthwave, classical pop, movie soundtracks.
City pop.
City pop, yeah, Japanese city pop.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, it's so niche. And I guess that's something to mention. The international aspect of it. Mm-hmm. We're exposed to this genres such as Japanese city pop, which are just, we wouldn't have been without YouTube. Sure. There's no chance.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. One thing I wanted to mention was this trend of aesthetic remixes. Mm. The most famous one, which was kind of a meme a few years ago, was Childish Gambino's song Redbone, because someone made a song that was something like Redbone, but you're
at a pool or something.
You're at a bathroom, but you're in a bathroom at a house party.
Yeah.
I think, and it just sounds like that. So they altered it to sound like that, and then it became increasingly like more funny and silly addendums or situations with like Redbone, but well, one common one is but you're driving in a highway at night.
Yeah.
Or but you're there was one is like Redbone but you're drowning.
That's the one I was thinking of, yeah, because it's like bubble noises on top of it.
There's a lot of those, and those were kind of memes, but I think from my recommendations anyway, it's kind of become just a normal thing because there's at least one creator who does big songs, usually big hip hop or pop songs, and it's always slowed down plus reverb. So it'd be like Kanye West Reborn, slowed down plus reverb. And they always have the same sound. And that's a lo-fi philosophy, I guess. It's about remixing and altering and manipulating what may not sound like the genre to make it sound like that.
Yeah, so you could have a playlist of like the most obscure collection of songs. You could have like a Taylor Swift, a Kanye, and Bach.
Yeah.
And they would all be like remixed to sound like whatever the vibe is.
Yeah, it's about this creativity and intense kind of culture sharing of the internet, which leads to, cool things like that, which would not have happened otherwise. So that's something which is good about it for sure.
Yeah, but it's just too much of an online-based community, and it's not like a real-life community.
Aha.
Yeah.
For my final point, I thought a fun exercise would be, unless you had something else to mention.
No, that was all.
A fun exercise would be design a lo-fi music festival. Because I remember, what was it, a couple years ago, I had this ridiculous list of ambitions on my phone.
Yeah.
In the notes app. And I would keep adding to it, and one of them was like start a lo-fi music festival.
Yeah.
I think one of them said like become a DJ, so I guess those two are kind of mixed as well.
Yeah. Mixed. Chicka chicka.
Yeah. I don't think you'll be becoming a DJ anytime soon. Any ideas for that? Because I think the reason it appealed to me, just those words together, was because it's so inherently internet-based that to see it in real life, it feels like a paradox when you say them.
It'd be weird. Like, I don't know what a lo-fi performance would look like.
How many lo-fi songs have you ever listened to without headphones in? Just playing them. Like, even that just seems wrong to me.
I know.
It's like, you don't do that.
I was going to say,
it's supposed to be fed straight from the digital machines into my brain. It can't lose it in the air.
So, my thought when you said lo-fi music festival, this is the image that came to my mind.
Very pink.
Very pink, like, dusky kind of place. Probably a field, but like with little tiny wildflowers everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the stage isn't a stage. It's like more of a bedroom. Just kind of like a bench or something.
It's a set.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everyone's like social distancing. It's like how I imagined it. So it's just everyone's
this is
like...
even before Corona time?
Yeah. But now everyone knows what this looks like. Everyone's just kind of spread out with headphones in. But they're like AirPods and they're listening to the stage, or like they have
Wait, so the music's not actually playing?
It's in their headphones.
So let's say the
and
stage
everyone's just kind of like...
let's say the stage is like a soundproof box.
Yeah.
It's a glass box where you can't see it. If you look up the Kids See Ghosts performance...
Yeah, so it's a glass box of a bedroom. The girl is like, the performer is dressed like the girl from like the Lo-Fi Beats
and there
video.
are cats in the crowd.
Everyone just brings their cat.
That's a very, very dystopian image. A bunch of young people in a field, each with headphones in, 6 feet apart, listening to the same music but not out loud.
Yeah. But they're all dressed like really...
So someone who doesn't have headphones and just walks there and it's just perfect silence. And no one's dancing,
But people
obviously.
just kind of like bopping
no
like a little bit.
They're just kind of going like...
Yeah. No one can see you right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a podcast and no one can see me, but I was just slowly moving. I guess that's how I usually dance anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, cats are moving around. Any snacks? Oh, no drugs allowed, by the way.
Well, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Snacks. Well, like I would say, I mean, coffee's a drug.
No, it has to be like anime.
Mugs.
It has to be like anime food.
Ooh, like sushi and stuff.
Yeah, because so for the piano mixes or the lo-fi summer mixes, it's often clips of Studio Ghibli food because it always looks so good. Cartoon food always looks so good. I think that's another thing about cartoon world. It's a fantasy. It looks like an idealized version.
Yeah, so probably just like candy and like...
No, I feel like there's got to be some ramen.
Ramen's a good call.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, so you cut over to me sitting in my long skirt probably with my headphones in, eating ramen with a little tiny plate of like Swedish fish.
Yeah, a dainty sweet.
Yeah.
Any merch sold at the festival? I say yes.
I say yes, but it's more like a thrift store of merch.
I think there'd be some beige hoodies going around.
Some beige, yeah.
Or t-shirts with a single word stitched in.
Yeah.
It'll say like...
Or the back has like a lot of words on it. And
it'll say like coffee, period.
Yeah. I see. I think, yeah, your image of the merch is different from mine. Mine would be more of like, thrift store of like all the different artists who were featured. Mm-hmm. Each one was allowed to sell one piece of merch.
But the
just
thing
like
is,
one t-shirt.
No one cares about the artist. It's not like a typical festival where...
But it just says like, Chilled Cow Festival.
Oh, okay.
Then like their name and like the song or something with like a picture.
Oh, it'd be like, as it shows up in like the YouTube description. I guess that's a cool thing with like the timestamps as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
And everyone's allowed to give their comments. That's the only noise that's made.
People saying it out loud all at once because they can't hear each other. This would be an epic and zeitgeist defining piece of performance art, by the way, if we ever pulled it off.
Probably need to.
Just get a high school in a field, equip them all with AirPods, which they probably already have.
Exactly.
A glass box with a girl and
her cat
at a piano. Like,
piano,
she's
probably
making the music, right?
Probably like one of those little like boards.
A soundboard?
A soundboard, yeah.
Okay.
One of those. She has that. She has her piano.
And
something to tap, a drum.
No speakers. It's just going out via Bluetooth.
Yeah. You and I in the back.
Preposterous. But I guess, I mean, young people at music festivals are never doing things which on the outside look awesome. And this seems more wholesome than
any other music
what
festival.
Might otherwise be the case, yeah.
Cool. Let's make it happen. If anyone wants to get on board, just let us know.
Yeah, just don't steal the ideas without crediting us. Although I guess that happens a lot in lo-fi, so it might be thematic.
It might be.
So that was our discussion on lo-fi music. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it somewhat informative. If you knew about the music, then I hope you agreed with the things we said. If you don't, you can drop a comment on our SoundCloud or our Instagram. And if you didn't know about lo-fi, then I hope this was a good introduction. Go and check it out on YouTube and find your niche. You can find us on Instagram at _environmental. We kind of revamped it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool now. We have 4 different categories in which our episodes are featured.
Our posts
are featured. So we have one about our ideas, one about our inspirations, our podcast, and so on. And they're all depicted by a different color.
So if you want to get on there for some reminders to get off Instagram and some examples of what we hope are practices for living a cool life, do so. And we hope you all have a great
day.